One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking that if they just try a little harder, if they just give a little more, they'll finally be seen. That the person who treats them like an option will suddenly wake up and realize their worth. But the truth is, you can't convince someone to value you. You can only show them what it looks like when you value yourself. When you put yourself in the position of constantly proving why you deserve their attention, their love, or their commitment, what you're actually doing is teaching them that your love is something they don't have to work for. You're teaching them that you'll always be there, that no matter how little they invest, you'll keep showing up. And that is the moment you start to lose them. Not because you weren't good enough, not because you weren't worthy, but because people only value what they believe they could lose. Think about the things in life that people cherish the most, the opportunities they fight for, the relationships they protect, the friendships they nurture. They do that because there's a fear, even if it's small, that if they don't, they might lose something irreplaceable. When you make yourself too available to someone who doesn't appreciate you, when you constantly bend over backwards hoping they'll see your worth, you remove that fear. You become a constant. And as painful as it is, people don't fight for things they believe will always be there. So the real shift happens when you decide to stop waiting for someone to see your value and start showing it yourself. It's in the way you walk away from situations that no longer serve you. It's in the way you set standards, not in a way that demands someone else to change, but in a way that says, this is what I deserve, and I won't settle for less. When you know your worth, you don't beg for attention. You don't chase someone who isn't showing up for you. You don't waste time analyzing why they won't commit, why they don't call back, why they keep you at arm's length. Instead, you recognize that it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to live in a way that makes it impossible for them to ignore what they lost. And here's the interesting thing. When you finally stop treating them like they are the prize, when you take back your energy, your time, your presence, that's when they start to notice. Not because they suddenly became a better person, but because you shifted the dynamic. You went from being the person who was always available to being the person who has options. And when someone sees you have options, when they realize you're not waiting around, that's when they start questioning everything. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about stepping into your power. Because when you truly understand your worth, you don't need to make someone miss you. You don't need to make them feel what it's like to lose you. That will happen naturally. What you need to do is focus on yourself. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who was so confident, so secure in themselves, that you couldn't help but be drawn to them? They didn't chase. They didn't need to prove anything. They simply knew who they were. And that energy made them magnetic. That's what happens when you shift your focus away from trying to be chosen and instead choose yourself. And the best part? When you operate from that place, you no longer care whether or not they realize what they lost. Because the real win isn't making someone regret losing you. The real win is reaching a point where their regret doesn't even matter to you anymore. It's funny how often we mistake being heard for being understood. We spend so much time trying to make ourselves clear to someone who's not truly listening. And the more we push, the more we end up devaluing ourselves in the process. What we don't realize is that the most powerful tool we have in relationships, whether personal, romantic, or even professional, is silence. When you stop chasing, when you stop begging for attention, when you stop desperately trying to fill the silence with words, something profound happens. That's when they start to notice. That's when they start to feel the weight of your absence. Think about it for a second. If you're always present, always available, always throwing out the lifeline to bring them back, you're not leaving any room for them to miss you. They take your presence for granted. In fact, many people don't even realize how much they've come to rely on the comfort of your energy until that energy is no longer there. And trust me, when you stop chasing them down, when you stop begging for their attention, that's when you force them to confront the reality of your absence. The truth is, we're all just humans with a deep need for connection. We want validation, we want affection, we want to feel special. But what happens when we give that to someone who isn't giving it back? We end up in a cycle of trying harder, putting more of ourselves into it, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if we do enough, they'll see how much we care. But all we're doing is overextending ourselves, and in the process, we're undervaluing our worth. We're handing them the power to decide how much we mean, and that is where everything starts to unravel. Imagine this. You're having a conversation, and you're pouring your heart out, but the person you're talking to isn't really listening. They're distracted. They're not engaged, and you can feel it. It's frustrating, right? You start to wonder, why am I even talking? But what if instead of continuing to chase their attention, you took a step back? You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing that you're still waiting for their response. You don't continue to beg for them to hear you. Instead, you go quiet. You step into your own power. You might be thinking, but won't that push them away? And sure, on the surface, it might seem that way. But here's the twist. The moment you stop chasing, that's when they start feeling the absence of your energy. They might not even realize it at first, but sooner or later, they'll sense it. The conversations become emptier. The dates get quieter. The calls stop coming in as frequently. And now, they're the ones left wondering, where did they go? What happened to all that attention? Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you stop running after them, when you stop fighting for a place in their life, that's when you let the power of your silence work its magic. Because silence, in its purest form, is not weakness, it's strength. It's control. It's letting someone know that they no longer have the luxury of your constant attention. It's letting them feel that absence in a way that makes them question their choices. You have to remember that people don't truly appreciate something until it's gone. They don't realize the value of your time, your effort, your care, until you stop giving it away freely. And here's the hard truth. When you're constantly trying to be heard by someone who's not listening, you're teaching them that you're easy to ignore. You're teaching them that you'll always be there, that you'll always be available when they need you. And when you make yourself too available, they stop seeing you as a priority. They see you as an option. Now, I'm not saying you should play games or manipulate someone into realizing your worth. No, this is not about mind tricks. This is about self-respect. This is about recognizing your value and honoring it by not wasting your time on someone who doesn't see it. It's about letting your silence speak louder than any words could. It's about letting your actions, your behavior, and your boundaries do the talking for you. And when they start to feel that shift, when they start to notice that the door they thought was always open is now closed, that's when they start to ask themselves some serious questions. That's when they start to miss you, not because you've forced it, but because you've allowed it to happen organically. There is power in distance. And sometimes the best way to show someone your worth is not by telling them, not by pleading with them, but by giving them the space to realize they've lost something valuable. You don't need to scream it. You don't need to make a scene. The absence of your energy will be loud enough. Trust me, they'll feel it. In relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if we just keep pushing, if we just keep showing up, if we just keep giving, eventually they'll see how much we care. But what often happens instead is we give so much of ourselves that we lose sight of who we are, of what we want, and what we deserve. And here's the kicker. When we're no longer giving everything away, we start to reclaim our own value. We start to remember that we are worthy of being treated with respect and consideration, not as an option, but as a priority. So here's the simple truth. Stop chasing. Stop being the one to always reach out. Stop being the one who always bends, always compromises, always sacrifices for the sake of someone else. Instead, start letting silence speak for you. Start showing that you are someone who has standards, someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to walk away from anyone who doesn't see it. Because when you stop chasing, when you give someone the space to feel the void you've left behind, that's when they'll start to understand what it truly means to have you in their life. And let's be clear, when they finally realize what they've lost, don't go running back. Don't give them the satisfaction of thinking you'll always be there, waiting for them to come around. You've already moved on. And that's the best thing you can do. Remember this, silence isn't weakness, it's strength. And that's the message you need to send. You ever notice how when something feels too easy to get, it suddenly loses its value? Think about the things in your life you've had to work for. You treasure those the most, right? The hard-won achievements, the relationships that took time and effort to build, the moments that really made you feel like you earned something. Those things matter. Now, contrast that with the things you've gotten without much struggle. How do they feel in comparison? Often the things that come too easily lose their spark because we didn't have to put in the effort to get them. This is a law of attraction we often forget when it comes to relationships. We think that by always being available, by always saying yes to someone, we're making ourselves indispensable. But what we're really doing is undervaluing ourselves when you're constantly around, when you're always the one waiting for a message or a call. You're giving off an energy that says, I'm always here no matter what. And the truth is, this doesn't make you more attractive. It makes you less valuable. Think about it. When you make yourself available all the time, the person you're interested in doesn't have to put in any real effort. They know that whenever they need you, you're just a text away. That's a comfort for them. But comfort doesn't breed desire. Desire comes from scarcity, from the idea that what you have could be lost. When they realize they might not have access to you whenever they want, something shifts. They start seeing you in a different light. Suddenly, you're not just an option anymore, you're a priority. When you step back and let them feel the absence of your presence, you create a void that they start to fill with thoughts of you. You've heard it before, but it's true. People don't appreciate what they can always have. But the moment they can't have it, they want it more. It's the psychology of scarcity, and it's powerful. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but if I pull back, won't I seem distant? Won't they just move on? The answer is no. If they move on, it's not because you pulled back. It's because they were never invested enough to begin with. And if they do come back, it's because you created a sense of value and desire that wasn't there before. They'll notice the difference in your energy, the way you carry yourself now, the way you're no longer just available whenever they want to call the shots. This doesn't mean you play games. Playing games is about manipulation, trying to control someone's feelings through calculated moves. What I'm talking about is simply making a choice to honor your own worth, to stop letting someone treat you like an option when you deserve to be a priority. You're not giving them the silent treatment. You're not ignoring them because you want them to beg for your attention. You're simply shifting your focus away from them and back onto yourself. When you stop being the one who is always available, the one who always drops everything to make them happy, you start to get back the one thing that's really important in any relationship: respect. They'll respect your boundaries, they'll respect your time, and they'll respect that you have a life outside of them. And that respect is what makes them take notice. It's what makes them start thinking, maybe I've been taking this for granted. And that's when the shift happens. That's when they start realizing that you're no longer an option. You're someone they can't afford to lose. Let me tell you this, when you give someone all of yourself without making them work for it, you take away the challenge. You take away the thrill of the chase. And people love the chase. That's what keeps the energy alive. That's what keeps the desire burning. The moment you make it too easy, you start to feel like you're just another part of their routine, and routines are easy to ignore. But when you make them wonder where you are, what you're doing, and why you're not available like you used to be, you create intrigue. And intrigue is powerful. It keeps them guessing. It keeps them wanting to know more. But you can't create this space if you're always chasing. You can't create this shift if you're the one constantly reaching out, the one always making the first move. Instead, you need to put the power back in your hands by focusing on your own life, And it's not just about being busy to appear unavailable. It's about genuinely living your life with purpose, with excitement, with passion. When you're doing that, you naturally become less available. You're not sitting around waiting for someone to text you or call you. You're out there creating your own experiences, building your own world. And when someone sees that, when they see that you're not just sitting around hoping for their attention, that's when the shift happens. That's when they start thinking, wait, I can't just have this person whenever I want. They're doing things on their own. They're living their own life, and I have to respect that. The truth is, we all value what we work for. When something is scarce, it's perceived as more valuable. So when you create that sense of scarcity, you create that perception of value. And that's when you become more than just an option. You become someone who commands attention, someone who's worthy of being treated as a priority. The key is understanding that you don't need to prove your value to anyone. Your value is inherent. It's not up for negotiation. It's there, and it always has been. But the moment you start acting like it's up for grabs, like you're just another option they can pick up and put down whenever they feel like it, you're undervaluing yourself. Instead, you create your own value by focusing on the things that matter to you, the things that light you up, and the people who respect you for who you truly are. And when you do that, when you start living a life that's aligned with your own needs and desires, you'll start to notice that people treat you differently. You'll stop being an option and become the one they can't afford to lose. The game changes when you realize that your worth is not determined by how available you are or how much attention you give. Your worth is in your presence, in your energy, and in the way you carry yourself. And once you realize that, once you start living it, everything else will fall into place. You've got to understand this. The moment you stop caring about someone who doesn't seem to value you, you're not just protecting your peace, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you have all the power. And I get it, it's tough. When someone you've invested your time, energy, and emotions into treats you like an option, it can feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you. But here's the secret. The best way to show your worth, the best way to truly make them feel the absence of your energy is to turn that focus inward. The moment you stop worrying about what they're doing, how they're feeling, and what they think of you, everything changes. You become magnetic. It's funny, right? We spend so much of our lives thinking that we need to chase after people, trying to get their attention, hoping they'll see how much we care. But here's the thing. When you're always in the chase, you're not just lowering your own value, you're letting them dictate your worth. You're letting them control how much you show up in your own life. And that's exactly the opposite of what you need to do. You want to feel in control. You want to be the one dictating the terms of your happiness and your success. So what do? You stop. You stop chasing. And the moment you stop, the shift is palpable. They start noticing something different about you. And that's where the power starts to shift back into your hands. But it's not about playing games. It's about realizing your own value and then making the decision to protect that value. What happens when you do this is incredible. It's like the universe suddenly rearranges things to remind you that you are worthy of so much more. You stop giving so much of your energy to someone who hasn't earned it, and you start giving that energy back to yourself. And when you do this, something shifts inside of you. You stop waiting for them to validate your worth, and instead, you start doing it for yourself. You start realizing, hey, I deserve someone who sees me as a priority, not just an option. Now, let's get something straight. This isn't about punishing the other person. This is about showing up for yourself. It's about reclaiming your power. You see, when you start living for you, when you take yourself seriously, you stop tolerating anything less than what you deserve. And here's the kicker. They'll notice. They'll start wondering where the person who always ran after them went. They'll start questioning why they didn't appreciate you more when they had the chance. But here's the important part. When they come back, and trust me, they will, you'll have to make a choice. Do you let them back in as easily as before, or do you let them feel the full weight of their mistake? The answer, of course, is to make them work for it. You see, this isn't about revenge. This isn't about getting back at them for the way they treated you. This is about you maintaining your boundaries and understanding that your time, your energy, and your love are precious. And when you give that away, it should be earned. It's about them proving that they value you, proving that they understand what they lost, and proving that they are worthy of your time and attention. And let's be clear, if they come back and they haven't done the work, if they haven't shown that they've learned, then it's simple, move on. Don't waste your time hoping they'll change. Don't waste your time trying to fix something that wasn't broken because of you in the first place. The only person you can control is yourself. And when you realize that, when you stop putting your life on hold for someone else, you create space for the right person to come into your life. The one who won't treat you as an option, but as the priority you are. The one who'll see you for what you truly bring to the table. In this world, we all want to be loved. We all want to feel seen, appreciated, and valued. But the truth is, you can't make anyone see your value if you don't see it yourself. When you stop giving your energy away to people who don't deserve it, you not only teach them a lesson, but you also remind yourself that you are worthy of so much more. This is how you create boundaries. This is how you stop being treated as an option and start being treated as the priority. It's not about being bitter or angry. It's about knowing that you deserve to be treated with respect, love, and care. And that only happens when you start prioritizing yourself first. So the next time you find yourself thinking, why doesn't he realize what he has? Or why doesn't he see me for who I am? Remember this. It's not about him seeing you. It's about you seeing you. It's about knowing that you don't need validation from someone else to know your worth. You are worthy of the love you desire, and the only way to attract that love is to stop chasing after those who don't recognize it. Step back, invest in yourself, and watch how your world shifts. You've got everything you need inside of you. You just have to stop giving it away to those who don't appreciate it. And trust me, when you do this, when you live for you and prioritize your own happiness, you'll see the world respond in ways you never imagined. You'll start living a life where your value is never questioned. And when the right person comes along, they'll know exactly what they have in front of them because you've already shown them what it looks like when someone knows their worth. It's a common scenario, isn't it? You've been putting in the effort, showing up, giving your best, and yet somehow it still feels like you're just an option. And then when you start to take a step back, suddenly you get that message, the "hey, what's up?" or the half-hearted attempt to reignite a connection. But let me tell you something important here. When that happens, don't rush to engage. Don't fall for the trap of responding just to keep the conversation going. Instead, recognize this as exactly what it is, a breadcrumb, a small, underwhelming attempt to keep you hooked. When someone treats you like an option, you need to stop chasing them when they come back with crumbs. You see, it's not about being bitter or vengeful. It's about recognizing your own worth. You deserve more than a half-hearted text or the occasional thinking of you message that comes only when they want something or need reassurance. When someone shows up after leaving you in the dark, it's often not because they suddenly realized what they had. They're simply trying to keep the door slightly open just in case they need you later. Here's the thing. When you don't react right away, when you don't immediately fall back into the trap of responding to those small, insignificant gestures, something interesting happens. You start to put the power back in your hands. You take control of the situation. You're no longer feeding into a dynamic where you're treated like a fallback option. Instead, you're reclaiming your position as someone who deserves more than the scraps thrown your way. When you stop chasing the breadcrumbs, you stop reinforcing the idea that you're always going to be there when they need you. Let's face it, they know exactly how to reach you. They know that at any given moment, they can just throw out a text or give you a call, and you'll probably pick up, hoping it's something more substantial. But when you decide to put your energy elsewhere, when you stop responding immediately or at all to these minor attempts to re-enter your life, they begin to feel something they never expected. the absence of your attention. The void where your energy used to be is far more powerful than any message they could send. It's easy to get caught up in the moment when they reach out. You might start thinking, well, maybe they're finally ready to commit. Maybe they've figured it out. Maybe now they realize what they lost. But the reality is, actions speak louder than words. And if their actions haven't changed, if they're still offering you those crumbs, then it's not worth your time to get excited over something that's not going to lead anywhere meaningful. You deserve someone who will give you their time, their effort, and their attention without needing to be reminded of your worth. And this is where the real strength lies. It's in that moment of choice. The choice to not jump at the first sign of attention, the choice to prioritize your own peace and self-respect over the temporary validation that comes with their occasional outreach. The choice to walk away from what's comfortable, what's familiar, and what's been keeping you stuck in a loop. It's not about being harsh. It's about protecting your energy and recognizing that you have a higher standard for how you should be treated. Don't get me wrong. I get it. The temptation is real. The old patterns, the emotional connection, and the hope that maybe this time it will be different can pull at you. But think about it. How many times have you allowed yourself to go back and try again, only to find yourself right back in the same spot, unsure and unfulfilled? This is not about punishing the other person. This is about setting the standard for how you deserve to be treated and sticking to it, no matter how much you care. Now, I want you to understand something very important here. Ignoring these breadcrumbs isn't just about getting back at someone. It's not a petty act. It's a sign of growth. It's a reflection of the fact that you're evolving into someone who understands their worth on a deeper level. You don't need to chase or seek validation from anyone. You are already complete, and your life is already full, without having to rely on anyone else to validate your existence. When you hold yourself to this higher standard, you begin to notice something remarkable. The moment you stop settling, the moment you stop chasing after crumbs, your entire life starts to change. People who truly value you will show up. The right people will recognize your worth without having to be reminded. They'll put in the effort and they'll meet you at your level. Now, here's where the magic happens. By not engaging with these breadcrumbs, you shift the dynamic entirely. The person who once saw you as an option is suddenly faced with the reality of what it feels like to be the one on the outside. And when that happens, they'll start to reconsider their actions. They'll start to ask themselves why you're no longer as available as you used to be. They'll wonder where you went, what changed, and why they didn't value you in the first place. But here's the secret. By this point, you won't even need them to figure it out. You'll already be moving forward, already creating a life that's more aligned with who you are and what you deserve. You'll be so focused on your own growth, on your own happiness, that their realization won't even matter. You won't be waiting around for them to come to their senses. You'll be living your best life, surrounded by the people who value you, respect you, and love you for who you truly are. So, don't fall for the crumbs. Don't give them the satisfaction of knowing that you'll always be there, ready to jump at the smallest sign of attention. You're worth so much more than that, and the right person will see that without needing to be reminded over and over. Keep your head high, your standards high, and trust that when you let go of what doesn't serve you, you're making room for something far better. You're making room for someone who will treat you the way you deserve to be treated. From the very beginning, without hesitation. The real triumph in situations like this, where you're feeling overlooked or undervalued, isn't about making the other person feel what you felt. It's not about getting back at them, showing them how wrong they were to treat you as just an option. The true victory comes when you don't need to prove anything, when you don't need to chase after them, when you don't need them to acknowledge what they lost, because you've already moved on and found your peace without them. We often think that revenge is about making someone regret their actions. We think that if we can just show them what it feels like to lose us, to feel our absence, then they'll finally get it. They'll finally understand our value. But here's the truth that no one really tells you. Revenge doesn't come from their regret. It comes from the way you take your power back and use it to create a life that fills you with joy, purpose, and fulfillment. That's the real revenge, and it's far more powerful than any fleeting moment of making them feel bad for the way they treated you. Now understand this, when you shift your focus back to yourself, when you start to prioritize your own well-being and growth, something incredible starts to happen. You stop needing their approval, their validation, or even their acknowledgement. And that's where the magic happens, because it's at that exact moment that you begin to heal and become the best version of yourself. We spend so much time focusing on how others treat us, hoping they'll change, wishing they'll see our worth. But what if instead of focusing on them, you start focusing on what you can do to grow, to become the best version of yourself? What if you poured all that energy into developing your skills, your passions, your interests, and your relationships with people who truly value you? That's when the power shifts. That's when you no longer need them to feel good about who you are. And here's the kicker. They will feel it. They'll feel the change. And they'll notice when you stop being available, when you stop bending over backward for them, when your time and energy are no longer spent on chasing after someone who didn't see your worth in the first place. The shift is so subtle, but it speaks volumes. It's like the moment you stop seeking their attention, you become even more magnetic. You start showing up for yourself. And people take notice of that strength, that resilience, that self-sufficiency. And that's what they'll regret losing. Not you, but your ability to thrive without them. This is where the real power lies, in living your life in such a way that you don't need anyone to define your happiness or your success. You become your own source of validation. When you stop waiting for someone else to appreciate you, you start appreciating yourself in ways you never have before. And in that process, you realize something incredible. Your worth was never tied to someone else's ability to see it. It was always within you. You'll find that the people who truly deserve your time and attention are the ones who will see you, who will appreciate the effort, the passion, and the love that you put into your life. But it doesn't come from them chasing after you. It comes from you creating a life that's so rich, so fulfilling, that no one can help but want to be a part of it. And when you start to do that, when you truly start living your best life, the regret that they feel won't matter anymore. The way they treated you will no longer have the power to affect your sense of self. You've already moved on, already won. That's the real revenge, living your best life without them, letting go of the need for them to apologize, for them to realize what they lost. Because you've realized something much more powerful. You don't need them to feel complete. You don't need their acknowledgement to know your value. You've become whole, with or without them. And that, my friend, is the moment that shifts everything. So let this be the last thought in your mind. When you choose to move forward, to focus on your own growth and happiness, that's when the magic happens. Not because they regret losing you, but because you no longer need them to see your worth. You've already seen it for yourself, and that's a game changer.